Welcome back to America's Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Ball. This segment is brought to you by my company, Bull Realty. For customized asset and occupancy solutions, visit bullrealty.com or give me a call. Well, today we're talking about the industrial real estate market. And I like to talk to economists and I like to talk to analysts, but I also like to talk to people who are in the trenches, who are developing buildings, own buildings, selling buildings, buying them, and brokering. Well, please welcome my next guest. It's Larry Callahan. And Larry is Chief Executive Officer of Pattillo Industrial Real Estate, and he's here in Studio One. Larry, thanks for being with us again.
Glad to be here again, Michael.
Thank you. Well, Larry, you guys have a lot of industrial properties. You guys have been very active for a long time. You've been through a lot of cycles, and this is a pretty incredible one. What do you see from your desk in the marketplace today?
Well, I'd call the current market the best market that I've seen, and I've been doing this for 33 years now. So, there's a lot of numbers that get kicked around. One of them that is important is vacancy rates, and people report different rates, but most of them are saying this is about as low a vacancy rate as we've seen. And usually in real estate cycles and economic cycles, there's a point where people get over exuberant and they start building too much. And that has been long history. But right now we're seeing strong continued demand, low vacancy rate, rising rents. It's a good market, and we feel good about it, good enough about it that even at this stage, this recovery has been going on since really 2009, so we're closing in on 10 years into it. And even at this stage, we're building speculative buildings. So we're feeling good, and we're putting our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because I think of industrial developers and owners as a fairly conservative bunch, and then I think of your company's been around a long time. I think of you guys as being pretty conservative, and for you guys to be building spec, I think that's saying something.
Right. Well, this has been, it's been an interesting cycle, and I think one of the characteristics that's most notable has been that the restraint that has been part of it. The downturn that we had was a serious financial crisis, and the bankers still remember that. And money's been available through this cycle, but it hasn't been available to everybody. It's been available to good sponsors doing good projects, and that has been a characteristic through all this. So we're as late as we are in this cycle, this expansion has not been a rip-roaring expansion. It's almost 10 years old, and the economy has grown by about 21%. If you go back to the 1990s, when you had a similar length in an expansion, at this stage, we're sitting right now, the economy had expanded by 39%. So 21% what we've had now versus 39. So the point is, recessions come about because of misallocations of resources where we overdo the party and do too much. This has been a very subdued cycle. We are now at a turning point. Everybody needs to pay attention to it, that the Federal Reserve was for a long time very accommodative. They were trying their best to keep interest rates virtually at zero for short-term money. Well, they've started raising rates, and they've done it 8 times now over the last 33, 34 months. So, but if you go back to the last time they were tightening, which was 2004 to 2006, they went at 17 straight meetings, they raised the rate, and they raised it from 1% to about 5.25%. So it was a much more dramatic and faster increase. Only raised it 8%, only raised it from 0 to 2.25 now. So yes, we're in a tightening cycle. They're trying to send a signal to the market. That is something we need to pay attention to. But the cycle of growth has been relatively subdued, and the cycle of restraint on that growth has also been relatively subdued. So we've still got a strong economy. This late in the cycle, we just had one of the more rapid growth periods. We had a quarter where we grew at about 4%. We're unlikely to continue a 4% pace for the whole year. It's more likely to be 3% for the overall year. But still, that's a lot better than the average has been during this 10-year cycle. Because we only grew 21% in 10 years, we were growing at around 2%. Now we're at 3%. That's 50% better. So in terms of why do people feel good about where we stand and where we're going, it's because we got not a lot of excesses, still relatively inexpensive money, availability of money from all sorts of locations, and people are still doing smart things that are in tune, at least as we're seeing it, with what the market is asking for. So we're feeling good about things.
Yeah. And part of the industrial boom is really the retail boom, right? People, consumer confidence, increased wages, increased employment, lower tax rates, putting more money in people's pockets. Is there any part of that that would make you think that, wow, could this retail buying power that's fueling a lot of this industrial development keep going at this pace?
Well, we feel good about the move into e-commerce as industrial developers because it has created tremendous strain on retailers. Just this morning there was discussion of Sears possibly discussing another round of bankruptcy. That was in the Wall Street Journal today. And there have been others that have gone under. Toys R Us recently, Circuit City back a decade ago. There's a whole series of retailers that have been hurt by the changes in the retail economy. But where has all that buying gone? Well, it's gone to online sales. And how do online sales work? Well, you sit at your home and you click on something and it shows up on your doorstep. Well, it didn't come usually out of your local retail location. It came out of a warehouse. So there's been a big move toward retail coming out of warehouses, fulfillment centers, as they're called, and that's been a huge trend. So there's a lot of change going on in that area, and we can talk more about it if you want. But it is retailing. People are still buying things, and online retailing is growing at about 10% a year. So that's strong growth, and it has fueled. It's been the wind beneath the wings of industrial. Big changes, and people are redoing their distribution centers to create a network to be able to deliver something to you, not just what you ordered, but doing it quickly.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. I mean, I remember watching the Jetsons when I was a kid. They'd push a button and things were there. Yeah. And now everyone does want delivery right away. They'd like it next day, same day. They'd like it immediately. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing from your desk related to kind of this last mile craze?
Well, in the industrial world, one of the things that's become very common is when an older facility, smaller facilities come available, it's advertised as a last mile facility. That's become common usage. Not every one of those smaller buildings is actually going to be an online retailer distributing through a 20,000 square foot building. I actually think that we're in the early stages of people actually implementing a last mile delivery system. The delivery system that has been in place for a while, especially for pure online retailers, was you ordered something, they had a huge warehouse, and they out the back door handed it to the post office or FedEx or UPS or DHL, and they were your last mile delivery service. There's a lot of change going on right now because the big regional distribution networks have been built out by some, and there are more that are still building out these regional distribution networks. But they're now trying to figure out how do we actually get it faster to the customer. Well, one answer is going to be more smaller buildings surrounding where the population is, and as close to the population as they can possibly get it. So that's something that's happening. And then the other thing that's happening is the old brick and mortar companies, they didn't just give up and say, Amazon's going to take over everything. Home Depot and Target and people like that are realizing, hey, we've got last mile facilities. They call them stores. Like Home Depot's got 2,200 North American stores. And every one of those stores is a potential last mile delivery facility. In fact, more and more of what you click online to order is actually coming out of a store. So this is a big shift, and I think you're going to see more of it. Target, I guess I'll go back up and say Home Depot, about 2015, integrated their strategies for delivery of things that have been ordered online. It used to be that when this first happened and everybody started shifting to online purchases, it was common that retailers would set up an online division and then they still had their stores. Well, a lot of them have come to the conclusion that it's wiser to have one network, and when the order comes in, figure out what the smartest way is to get that to the customer. If somebody has ordered something and it happens to be sitting in a distribution center that is 400 miles away, you can ship it from there, but that same item might be in the Home Depot store or Target store that is 1 mile from that person's house. Right. So a lot, in fact, I think it's the majority at this point, of what Target is doing with online purchases are coming out of their stores. Mm-hmm. And the stores are actually the fulfillment centers. Right. So people are integrating their strategies, and even what was completely an online business at one point, Amazon has acquired Whole Foods, and one of the things that got out of it was the delivery network. Right. So, and they're learning from that. So a lot of changes there, and I'll mention one other one that I think a lot of folks are going to start paying attention to more and more, which is that lockers of various sorts are going to start affecting real estate of almost all sorts. You're already seeing them in Whole Foods or Publix or Kroger. Anybody have got the little lockers and sometimes refrigerated lockers up front where somebody has ordered, a service has gone around and shopped for you and put it in the locker, and you come by and pick it up. Well, that's one example, but there will be more. I actually watched the other night Shark Tank on television. Have you ever watched that?
Sure, I like it.
And there was a guy on that show, and what he was doing was trying to get funding for a locker that would basically be sitting on your front porch. Had a special key and things like that. So, there are people out there trying to find the best solution, and there's unlikely to be just one solution. But the idea of you click on something and something that may be worth $300, $500, or $1,000 is just sitting on a box on your front porch. There have been a lot of people that have, taken advantage of that situation. Right. And I think that there's going to be any number of new solutions for more security in the delivery process.
Yeah, and that makes sense because one of the things that is out there now is Instacart, right, where they're delivering groceries. And my son worked for that. He's in college, and he did a little bit of that delivery. And he's running around really fast, putting the things in that just what the customer wants. The nice thing for the customer too is not only do they have to not go there, they're not tempted to buy all this other stuff, right? And bust their budget. And then it just gets delivered to their door. But if they're not there, that stuff just sits on the porch.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's good to have your groceries. I mean, you can have them delivered to your front porch, and they'll tell you the time and everything else. But think about your life. Sometimes something comes up, you go somewhere else, and do you want your milk sitting on the front porch for 3 or 4 hours? Yeah. So. Well,
I want to take a short break, Larry, but I want to ask you about construction costs and how that's impacting your business in industrial real estate and what you see moving forward for values of property in the market. So stay with us. I'm Michael Bull. This is America's Commercial Real Estate Show. We'll be right back.